The evening had settled quietly over the city, and inside a modern African home, the glow of warm light spread across elegant furniture and polished floors. From the outside, it looked like the house of a perfect family. Inside, however, silence ruled. Samuel, a tall black African man dressed in a tailored suit, sat on the living room couch, staring at the floor with a thoughtful heaviness. Across from him sat his wife, Amara, graceful in a flowing modern gown, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. To friends and neighbors, Samuel and Amara were the definition of a perfect couple, successful, respected, and proud parents of 2 children. Their home often echoed with laughter, their photographs flooded social media with smiles, and their union was admired by many. But in truth, beneath the polished surface, cracks were beginning to spread like unseen fractures in glass. At dinner that night, the atmosphere was heavy. Their children laughed lightly at the start, but the laughter quickly faded when they noticed their parents exchanging cold glances. Samuel chewed slowly, his eyes fixed on Amara, and Amara avoided his gaze, her smile fragile and forced. Later, as Samuel scrolled through his phone, he glanced up to see Amara staring into space, her phone glowing in her hand. He lowered his own device and asked softly, "Amara, talk to me. What's troubling you?" She snapped out of her daze and forced a smile. "Nothing. I'm fine." "Just tired," she said, but her voice wavered. Samuel leaned back, his eyes narrowing. He knew her too well to believe her words. Something was wrong, and she was hiding it. The first spark of doubt was lit by someone close. Samuel's younger brother David visited one afternoon, dressed casually in jeans and a jacket. He shifted uneasily before speaking. "Brother, forgive me if I'm wrong, but people talk. They say Amara has been meeting someone secretly." Samuel froze, his chest tightening. He dismissed it outwardly with a shake of his head, but inside, David's words planted a dangerous seed of doubt. That night, Samuel couldn't sleep. He turned in bed and saw Amara awake, her face lit by the glow of her phone. He reached for her hand, but she quickly turned the device face down. His voice was quiet, almost breaking. "Why hide from me, Amara? Aren't we supposed to share everything?" She sighed heavily and snapped, "Not everything needs to be shared." "Don't create problems where there are none." Those words cut him deeply. For years, trust had been the foundation of their marriage. Now he felt that foundation crumbling beneath him. A week later, the storm revealed itself. Samuel returned home earlier than expected on a Saturday afternoon. The house was quiet, unusually so. As he walked past the living room into the study, his steps halted. There, sitting at the desk, was Amara, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs, a folded letter trembling in her hands. The moment she noticed him, her eyes widened with panic. She shoved the paper quickly into the drawer, wiping at her tears. Samuel's voice was sharp, demanding. "What was that?" "Show me." Amara shook her head, her words tumbling out in desperation. "It's nothing, Samuel. Please, just leave it." But Samuel's suspicion grew like fire in his chest. That night, while Amara slept, Samuel's mind refused to rest. He slipped quietly out of bed, his heart pounding as he opened the drawer in the study. His trembling hands pulled out the letter. Each line he read pierced his heart like a blade. The letter was from a man named Chike. The words scrawled across the page were damning. "Amara, I can't live in the shadows anymore. Our son deserves to know who his real father is. Hiding this truth will destroy us all." Samuel's vision blurred as the letter slipped from his shaking hands. The boy he had raised as his own, the child he believed carried his blood, was not truly his. His entire world spun. Memories of first steps, birthdays, laughter, and bedtime stories now struck him like cruel reminders of a life built on a lie. His chest heaved as anger and heartbreak battled inside him. The next morning, Samuel confronted his wife. Both were dressed for work, but their polished outfits did little to hide the storm inside their hearts. His voice was hoarse and broken as he held the letter up before her. "Tell me it's a lie, Amara. Tell me our son is mine." Amara's tears fell freely as she crumbled before him. "Samuel, I wanted to tell you years ago. I was afraid. Afraid of losing you, afraid of destroying our family. I thought if I buried the truth, we could all survive." Samuel's jaw clenched, his eyes burning. The woman he trusted more than anyone had hidden a secret that cut deeper than betrayal. He turned away, unable to look at her, his silence louder than any argument. Days dragged on, each heavier than the last. Samuel withdrew into himself. He no longer joined the family dinners. His laughter vanished. He avoided eye contact with the boy who had always called him father, torn between love and the cruel truth that gnawed at him. Amara tried to bridge the gap, speaking softly, reaching for his hand, but guilt bound her in chains too heavy to break. Their children began to notice. Their once lively home was now a graveyard of silence, the air thick with unspoken battles. Outside the walls of their home, whispers grew. Neighbors who once admired them now spoke in hushed tones. Friends speculated about the change. The perfect couple was unraveling before their eyes. Inside, Samuel's heart wrestled with impossible questions. Should he forgive her and fight for the family he had built? Should he walk away and reclaim his dignity? Or should he tell the children the truth, risking shattering their innocence forever? Each choice threatened to destroy him, no matter which path he took. One evening, Samuel stood in the hallway, watching his children sleep peacefully, unaware of the storm raging above them. His fists tightened, his breath trembled, and tears blurred his vision. The narrator's voice rose as the camera closed in on his face. The secret was no longer just between husband and wife. It had already begun to tear their family apart. But what Samuel chose to do next would change everything. The silence that hung in the Becky household was no longer peaceful. It was heavy, suffocating, and charged with unspoken pain. The once joyous home filled with laughter, music, and late-night conversations now echoed with distance. Every word spoken between Amal and Fabo seemed cautious, as though both feared shattering the fragile balance holding them together. But deep inside, both knew. The secret could no longer remain hidden. Amal stood near the large window of their living room, her gaze lost in the city lights. She had always been a woman admired for her grace and strength, but tonight her shoulders drooped with the weight of guilt. Fabo sat on the couch, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, his jaw tight. His mind replayed the revelations from part 1, every detail gnawed at him like fire on dry wood. The truth Amal had hidden was not small. It was life-altering. And though he wanted to forgive, part of him could not silence the anger building inside. "I never wanted you to find out this way," Amal whispered, her voice trembling. Fabo lifted his eyes, their depth darker than the night sky. "You didn't want me to find out, or you never wanted me to know at all." His words cut like a blade, sharp and deliberate. Amal's lips parted, but no words came. Her silence was enough of an answer. Their children, unaware of the full story, sensed the tension. Namsa, the eldest daughter, had grown quiet, choosing to bury herself in her books rather than confront the coldness at home. Loazi, the younger son, tried to break the silence with laughter, but even he had begun to notice that something was deeply wrong. The house that once celebrated birthdays and shared evening meals together was now divided, each member retreating into their own corner. Amal's sister Zinhul visited one evening. She noticed the unease immediately. "What's going on here?" she asked gently. Fabo glanced at Amal, waiting for her to respond, but Amal lowered her head, avoiding her sister's eyes. Fabo finally spoke. "Ask your sister what truth she has been hiding from us all these years." Zinhul's eyes widened. She turned to Amal. What is he talking about? Amahal felt tears sting her eyes. The truth had already begun to unravel, and soon everyone would know. That night, Amahal confessed everything to her sister. Zinhol was stunned, almost unable to breathe as the words sank in. You carried this all alone? Amahal, how could you not tell Fabo? He had every right to know. I was afraid, Amahal admitted, her voice breaking, afraid of losing him, afraid of tearing this family apart. But the irony was bitter. Her silence had already done the tearing. Fabo overheard their whispers from the hallway. His fists clenched as he realized the depth of betrayal was worse than he had imagined. He wanted to scream, but anger warred with the love he still carried for the woman who stood before him. Imagine this. The person you trusted most reveals a truth that shakes your entire life. Would you fight to save the relationship, or would you walk away forever? Share your honest thoughts in the comments. Your perspective could inspire someone watching right now. The next morning, Namsa confronted her mother. Mama, why is Baba so angry? Why do you both avoid each other? Her innocent eyes demanded the truth. Amal's chest tightened. Her daughter deserved honesty, but how could she explain the storm that had engulfed their lives? Fabo stepped in. His voice cracked, but he finally revealed what Amahal had hidden. The truth spilled like shattered glass across the floor, each word cutting deeper into their hearts. The children froze, their world spinning out of control. Namsa burst into tears, Wazi stared in shock, and Amahal collapsed into a chair, sobbing. The home that once stood as a symbol of unity was now fractured by betrayal. Days turned into weeks. Fabo wrestled with sleepless nights, haunted by what he had learned. Friends noticed his distance at work. Colleagues whispered about the man who no longer smiled. Amahal, on the other hand, carried visible guilt. Her eyes were dim, her laughter gone. Yet, despite the pain, there were moments when Fabo would glance at her and remember the years they had built together. The love, the sacrifices, the shared dreams. Could all of it be erased by a single secret? Or was love strong enough to survive even this storm? One evening, Fabo's mother visited. She had lived through her own heartbreaks and losses. Sitting them both down, she spoke firmly. Children, secrets are like shadows. The longer they remain, the darker they grow. But if you face them together, even the deepest shadows can disappear. Her words lingered in the air. For the first time in weeks, Amahal and Fabo looked at each other without anger, only pain, longing, and the faintest spark of hope. The final test came during a family gathering. Relatives could feel the tension. Whispers floated around. Fabo stood up, his voice steady but emotional. This family has been shaken by secrets, but I refuse to let it collapse. Love, real love, is not built on perfection, but on forgiveness. And though my heart is heavy, I choose not to let anger destroy what we have built. Amahal wept openly, reaching for his hand. The room filled with tears, sighs, and a sense of relief. The road ahead would not be easy. Trust, once broken, takes years to rebuild. But the first step had been taken. The story of Amahal and Fabo is not just theirs, it is a reflection of many families torn apart by secrets. The lesson is clear: silence can break what truth might mend. Honesty may hurt, but dishonesty destroys. As the screen fades to black, the narrator's voice delivers the closing line. Remember, family is built on trust, and trust must always walk hand in hand with truth. Protect it, cherish it, and never let fear silence your honesty.